if you have a psychic 7, meaning you're born on the 7th, the 16th, or the 25th, or even born on the 17th or 27th, this episode is for you, as well as the people who have destiny 7s, name number 7s, and personal year number 7s, because we are talking about the number 7 in 2024. So welcome to Numbers with Jacari. I'm your host, Jacari, but you already know, call me Ace. And like I said, we're talking about the number 7 in 2024. So if you have any of those placements, go ahead and calculate that stuff. You can use my free finding your chart guide that is linked below. And you can also, if you want to know a little bit more on a personal side, how all of these things will impact you, I would recommend booking a reading, because I do offer services, and that will give you more of a clearer insight to your personal experience to you, because you have personal numerology, and that will play out this year whether you're paying attention to it or not. And I think you should pay attention to it. And also I would recommend listening to all the episodes, but specifically for you, number 7, I would recommend listening to number 4, because you do have a little bit of some shared experiences this year. So check that out. But if you're liking what you're hearing, make sure you share it on your socials and tag me at Numbers with Jacari on Instagram or TikTok. And all the direct links are in the description of this episode. But let's go ahead and get into it, because this year is a universal 8 year. And now last year was a universal 7 year. So things were a little bit more geared to your natural energy of 7. But when we made this shift from 7 to 8, what happens sort of kind of? Now, how numbers work together is the relationality of what is the relationship, what are the shared experiences between these numbers. Now 8 and 7 have a strong similar relationship to emotions. So for you, number 7, a very big theme for you this year will be emotional regulation, processing, honesty, trust, feeling the feelings, not just thinking about the feelings, actually allowing these things to seep in and understand the emotional impacts and the emotional side of yourself. Because 7 is so logical and it likes to just understand and gain a lot of information, it's very aware, it just likes to think everything through. So it can sometimes struggle a little bit with actually processing the emotional side of things, making this year a very big impact to those spaces in regards to 7 to 8's relationality. So definitely take the time to build those emotional strengths, and this can be done through spiritual work, energy work, therapies, shadow work, whatever works for you. And therapies don't always have to be a talking it out. This can also be a great time to start journaling if you haven't, because 8 really likes to bring things into the physical in some spot, and those things, all of those things listed, are bringing it into the physical in some way. Because again, therapy does not have to be just a talk therapy that is psychologically based. It can very much be something that's a little bit more physical. It can be something a little bit more energetic focused, something that somebody's doing a little bit more for you. There's a lot of different ways that we can go about therapy, so I do want you to look into that a little bit more to find out what works for you. Now, some 7 themes relate to the past, the unknown, like I said before, research. There's also perspective in there. There's also detachment and escapism, understanding, introspection, isolation, and those themes are also very prominent for this year. Now, like I said, we came from a 7 year to an 8 year, so I would say that this year is likely to be very impactful for you in regards to the length of the year, because of the fact that last year we were in that natural energy of 7, so there was a little bit more comfort for the number 7, versus now we're in this 8 year and it's like, okay, we know where we used to be, but there's still a lot of impacts that you're likely to experience, especially in regards to those spaces. Isolation is something that is very highlighted, because 8 loves to isolate as well. It's very connected to depression as well, so that might be something that you experience this year a little bit more than usual, due to the fact that 8 and 7 are working on this together. So since this is a group project, I recommend you strengthen your support systems, and that can be through therapies, like I said, but this also tells you to work on your intimate relationships, your friends, your families, those people who are very close to you, who have seen you and grown to love you and understand you to some extent, because 7 has a tendency to be one of the stronger people out here and just allowing everybody to rely on them and not so much relying on other people. So I want you to really work on building up the people in your space to be supportive for you, because 7 likes to isolate. 8 also likes to isolate, so it makes it a little bit harder for you to get the support that you truly do need. So I do want you to work on that. This also ties into expression because of this, because when you take the time to actually authentically express yourself, you're able to get people's true reactions and true responses and true feelings. And you deserve to be in relationships and dynamics that are honest and authentic to you, which again, expression does connect to that authenticity as well. So I also want you to, one of the ways that you can help yourself or allow yourself to be more expressive is being creative. Visual arts is something that might come naturally to you, as well as themes around poetry and writing. So if writing is something that you feel you can do, go ahead and do that. But also make something that is purely creative. I don't want you to necessarily make this something, at least initially, that is a business or a brand, unless that is something that you've already felt called to do. I want you to really give yourself an outlet to simply just be an outlet to help you learn to regulate and help you get better in those spaces. So this can be writing poetry, this can be journaling, this can be working on a story or writing a book. This can also be visual arts, this can be music as well. Whatever feels like you can actually tap into in regards to creativity, I want you to be able to do that. And I really want you to allow it to simply just be for the fun of it, for the joy of it, so you can get that experience with pleasure that is very much self-evoked and also self-dependent. It doesn't require other people to necessarily step in. It's something that you really get to just share with yourself. And if you one day want to share it with the world, so be it. I would also like to throw in there honesty with self and understanding and communication with self and also others, because you have that ability to understand things so broadly and also logically. That's a very big side of it. Since there's that logic behind it, it can sometimes cause you to struggle to, like I said before, feel the things instead of just thinking the things. So I want you to be honest with yourself about how things make you feel. If it's frustration, if it's angry, if it's upset, if it's happy, if it's sad, whatever it may be, I want you to be able to be honest with yourself, understand that, and also communicate with yourself that with yourself and also the people around you. So when you feel like, yeah, I'm overstimulated right now, or I feel anxious, or I'm just frustrated right now, I don't want to talk about it, but I just want to let you know that my tone or my body language has nothing to do with you. I want to let you know that this is happening because this happened. Just give a little bit of clarity to the people around you, because though you are so aware and you might be able to read other people so well, you might not always be that readable in regards to people knowing exactly how to pinpoint those things. So to give people that clarity, open communication is something that I highly recommend, because that information that you're providing gives clarity to other parties, which information is a very big theme for you this year as well, because 8 being the mature number that it is of that authoritative figure, it connects to a teacher in some sorts. So the information that you're getting this year is likely to be a little bit different than that last year, but also in some ways tie back into last year's information, because 7 connects to misinformation. So you might have learned something last year and then found out, oh wait, that's not how this works, or that's not what that actually was, or that happened because this happened, or these people lied, or this source was da-da-da, whatever. You might see a lot of that this year for you personally, and this can be on a large scale, but this can also be on a very interpersonal scale as well. There's also an emphasis on the mystery and the unknown, because 8 and 7 love to discover. They love to dive in and just see what happens. So I want you to still allow yourself to indulge in that mystery, indulge in that unknown, because that is where you're safe. That is where you're comfortable in that figuring things out and really just getting a sense of, okay, this is what's going on. This is what this means. This is how this works, and da-da-da-da. So I really want you to still dive into those things, because those are what are natural to you. Now, one of the last things that I do want to point out is the connection between mind and reality. You have that dominance to lean into the mind, or that 7 has that dominance to lean into the mind and can struggle to connect to the body, which can leave the nervous system struggling to regulate. So I really want you to help your nervous system regulate. This can be something that you research and learn about, but I also want you to actually apply the information that you're learning. So as you're taking everything into your mind, allow it to actually process through your body, so that your brain doesn't get too overwhelmed and overworked, and you don't feel like you're burning out so quickly. I want you to be able to take that information and apply it to your life in whatever ways you can, and also apply it to other people's life, because people tend to be a little bit more drawn to you because of the things that you can provide for them, but also, again, allowing the people that you do have in your life also support you the way that you're supporting them, or in a way that feels respectful and honest to both parties as well. So I really want you to be able to connect to that body and move that body. So this can connect to themes around like Tai Chi or slow body movements like yoga. Martial arts is also in there as well. This also connects to more meditation work. And meditation doesn't necessarily have to be you just sitting still and just closing your eyes and clearing your mind of all thoughts. It can be simply talking through your thoughts in your head, or even talking out loud. I would also recommend you speaking to yourself out loud this year. That would be something that helps you get a little bit more comfortable with talking to others in a sense, because you're already using your mouth and using your voice and getting more comfortable with what that's actually like, instead of being so much in your head. Even though 7 can be talkative, sometimes it's not. Now, in regards to the difficulties that you're likely to experience this year, there's a lot of feelings around neglect, distrust, and dishonesty. Now, 7 can struggle in those spaces of feeling like they're being respected. So this is why I really emphasize that open communication for you, so that you don't feel those things. And also when those things are actually present, you have a clear sign of those things and clear communication to know that you're not being gaslit and not being misled in regards to the information, because misinformation is another thing that you might find a little bit of difficulty around this year. So I really want you to be able to communicate, to get those things across, so that you're not so much in the dark. We also have an emphasis around obsession, because 8's love of power and 7's natural connection to obsession, that brings this theme into light. So it puts you in a position where you might have a little bit more of people trying to tether onto you, and you also might tether onto other people or other things. So this also brings up boundaries as well. I don't know if I actually referenced that earlier, but boundaries in regards to your support systems that you're building and strengthening are very, very key, so that you're not putting yourself in a position where you're thinking you're getting one thing and you end up getting another. I want you to be getting exactly what you are looking for. So building up those boundaries so that you're not getting the short end of the stick, and nor is anybody else. There's also an emphasis on abuse of power and overindulgence, as well as restlessness, impulsivity, and outbursts, because outbursts and that abuse of power go a little bit together, hand in hand. Abuse of power can be something that you are abusing your own power, or somebody is abusing their power over you. That can go both ways. And in the experience of trying to learn how to emotionally regulate, there's that emphasis on trying to get that regulation, get comfortable with feeling those things that can cause you to feel very uncertain and dive into that restlessness and impulsivity, and then in turn also experience some outbursts of when you're trying to get that footing on, okay, this is what anger feels like, and not thinking about it so much, and this is what frustration or annoyance or happiness or joy, excitement feels like. We have those outbursts of actually being able to express those things that might come up, and there's not necessarily anything wrong with those outbursts per se. I just want you to be able to communicate clearly where that is stemming from, why that is happening, and be able to express yourself clearly, authentically, and truly, but also be able to express to others what is going on in your personal world, because we're not in there with you. You might be able to see everybody else's stuff, but not everybody else can see yours. So my suggestions are not only to build and strengthen your support systems and your boundaries, but I also want you to take your breaks as needed, because with that emotional regulation being something that is very likely and very dominant this year, it's important to also regulate that nervous system and listen to your nervous system's needs, because your nervous system is your entire body in and of itself. So I want you to really get better at taking those breaks and not diving so head on into everything, and just take your time to create whatever you're trying to create. And I also want you to get really clear on your needs and your wants and connect them to the human experience. With you being so naturally drawn into your mind, it can be a little bit difficult for you to actually experience the physical. So I want you to be able to still float in that boundless and formless nature that you embody, but I also want you to be able to connect that boundlessness and that freedom and pull it into this physical, so you can experience it on a tangible side as well. And also even confront the limitations of that experience, and really just being able to dive within everything that humanity has to offer. Now, there are a couple of months that I want to note. January, February, and March are the biggest ones, and then October, November, and December are the last ones. We also have a little bit of a hint in April, May, June, July, and August. but because like I said, this month is, or not even this month, but this year is very likely to be impactful for you. Now 9 is probably 9, lol. January is a universal 9 month, and 9, 7, and 8, their relationality, them being the last 3 numbers, brings a level of not only maturity but also dominance, because there's this thing called maturity in numerology where it's believed that the last 3 numbers have the strongest powers because they are the last 3 numbers. So with that, we have a lot of emphasis on power dynamics and the abuse of power for January for you this month. Then also in February, we have that universal 1 month. 1 and 7 has a great strong relationality, but the relationality between 1 and 8 can be a little bit intense and anxiety inducing. So there would be an emphasis on your mental health and your mental instability as well as stability for the month of February. So I really want you to work on those boundaries and also working on those support systems so that you have people to rely on as those themes may show up for you. Then we also have that emphasis in March. March is going to be a universal 2 month. 2 reflects the number 8, so there's a very strong relationality there. Reflections are 2 numbers that sit on opposite sides of the same vibration. And then we have 2 and 7's relationality. 7 is actually ruled by not only Neptune and Mercury, but also the South Node. And the South Node is one of the lunar nodes. And 2 is ruled by the Moon, which is lunar energy. So that relationality is there, as well as a reflection between 2 and 8. That brings a strong emphasis on emotions, which very much highlights everything that we've already talked about in regards to emotional regulation, processing, that honesty, that trust, and actually feeling your feelings and not just thinking about them. Now, when we get to October, November, and December, there's a re-experiencing of sorts of those themes, because October is going to be a universal 9 month, November is going to be that universal 1 month, and then December is going to be that universal 2 month. So there's sort of kind of a repeat of it. So I really want you to take that time to, in the beginning of the year, really get your footing on it. And even if you don't get it now and you feel inspired to take action whenever you're listening to it, take that action, take up that space to make sure you feel good, because you deserve to have a good experience this year. There's that emphasis on emotion, so it might feel a little bit icky at first, but I want you to stick with it and also get yourself around people who can help you work through this. I did also put an emphasis on spiritual work as well, because 7 is naturally connected to that internal work of like things around shadow work and that inner spirituality, the spirituality with self. So you can work with a spiritual practitioner. That is something that I do and do provide for people. So if you're interested in working with me, definitely slide my way. But other than that, I hope you enjoyed this. Make sure you share this with somebody who either has the number 7 or is experiencing 7 themes, or even wants to know more about numbers or the numbers in experiencing 2024 specifically. Make sure you follow me on Instagram and TikTok at Numbers with Jacari. Book your consult whenever you're ready, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.